A wildfire that killed 4 Egyptian farm workers has been brought under control. A 67-year-old farmer has been remanded in custody for 8 days on suspicion of starting the blaze, which he denies. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma has addressed crowds of supporters, many of whom have been camping outside his residence since Saturday. South Africa's highest court agreed to hear his appeal against a 15-month jail sentence. And the authorities in Miami are preparing to demolish the rest of a collapsed tower block over fears an approaching storm could bring debris down onto search and rescue teams.
In Hong Kong, hundreds gather to remember the Tiananmen Square democracy protests, despite a ban on the observance and the arrest of the organizer. Japan donates 1.24 million injections of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine to Taiwan to help fight increasing cases there. In Britain, finance ministers of the Group of 7 nations meet to discuss issues such as shared tax rules for international companies. And France said Thursday that it is suspending joint military operations with Mali to pressure military leaders to return a civilian government to power.
Rain has been hampering efforts to find missing people after deadly mudslides on Saturday in a city near Tokyo. At least 2 people died, and about 20 are said to be unaccounted for. But the mayor says it is hard to know the exact number. 1,000 rescue personnel, including self-defense forces and police officers, continued searching on Sunday in the city of Atami, Shizuoka Prefecture. But the rain forced them to stop several times. Officials say 23 people have been rescued so far, some of them injured. This video uploaded to Twitter shows a giant mudslide plowing through a community on Saturday. At least 130 buildings were damaged, including many houses. Nearly 400 people were evacuated from the area. Some spoke of how terrifying the mudslides were.
My house was not swept away, but it was damaged. The mudslide was very powerful, just like a tsunami, so it's called a mountain tsunami.
The earth and debris traveled nearly 2 kilometers. The torrent was believed to have rolled all the way out to sea. Heavy rain struck areas along the Pacific coast ahead of the disaster. Atami has already had more than the average rainfall for the entire month of July. This image was taken in the mountains where the mudslide is thought to have originated. An expert pointed out that the area was vulnerable as it had large flows of underground water on a regular basis.
When the rain keeps falling for a long stretch, the underground water level can build up over time. I believe that's what happened in this case, as so much water came pouring into the valley.
Meanwhile, the initial results of a drone survey of those mountain mudslides were disclosed at the prefecture's task force meeting. It shows the collapse of a large area in the upper reaches where soil had been stored for a development project. The unmanned aircraft took images of upstream sections of the river where the mudslides rushed down on Saturday. Officials said a sloping mountain area measuring roughly 100 meters across had given way. They said the collapsed area was in a valley where soil had been piled up for a development project. They suspect that most of the soil may have given way. They raised this possibility after comparing topographical data collected around 2010 before the start of the development project and data gathered in 2020. The officials also said no land gave way in or near a large solar power generation plant located southwest of the collapsed area. Shizuoka Governor Kawakatsu Heita told reporters that he received an interim report indicating the mudslides had originated from where the soil was stored. But Kawakatsu said he was informed that currently there are no indications that activity at the solar plant was directly connected to the mudslides. 1 year has passed since record rainfalls hit Kumamoto Prefecture in southwestern Japan. Reconstruction and recovery efforts in the affected areas are progressing, but slowly. The disaster killed 67 people, including those who died in the aftermath. 2 individuals remain unaccounted for. A total of 3,675 people from more than 1,600 households were still living away from their residences as of the end of last month. They live in temporary houses and private residences that the government rents for them. About half of the inns and hotels in the affected areas remain closed. Those businesses supported the prefecture's mainstay tourism industry. The flooding washed away 2 railway bridges that crossed the Kuma River. The bridges were used by a local train line. 70% of the entire route is still inoperable. That section is 87 kilometers long. The operator has not yet drawn up a recovery plan. The central and prefectural governments intend to jointly build a dam and an anti-flood basin in the Kuma River's upstream areas. The project will be carried out over the next 5 to 10 years. It is part of an integrated flood control program. Concerns are rising again about a resurgence of the coronavirus in Tokyo. The metropolitan government reported 518 new cases on Sunday. The daily tally was up by 132 from a week ago. The week-on-week figure for the capital has increased for 15 straight days. Officials say 51 people are in serious condition and 1 person died. Across the country, more than 1,400 new infections were reported and 5 people died. A member of Serbia's Olympic rowing team has tested positive for the coronavirus after arriving at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. The rower in his 30s took the test at an airport quarantine station on Saturday. All 4 of his teammates have been designated close contacts and placed under a 2-week quarantine. The team was supposed to train in Nanto City near the Sea of Japan, but sources say the training camp will likely be canceled. The team is the second to have a confirmed case of the virus. 2 members of Uganda's team tested positive last month. Stricter border control measures have now been put in place for Olympians and others arriving for the Games. This comes after criticism of how the Ugandan team was handled. It took 3 days for officials to identify and isolate the close contacts. Japan's health ministry says lingering fever after coronavirus vaccinations could be a symptom of COVID-19. Experts say fever, headache, and other reactions to inoculation are most likely to be present the day after getting a jab. Researchers at the ministry say 2% of those who received a Pfizer shot developed a fever of 37.5 degrees Celsius or higher the day after their first shot, and 4% of those who received the Moderna vaccine. The researchers also say it is hard to distinguish symptoms of the disease from reactions to the vaccination. Some people with fevers might not get tested for the coronavirus. The ministry is urging people to see a doctor if their fever continues for 2 days or longer and if they have other symptoms of COVID. It is also asking medical institutions to test people with lingering fevers after inoculation or refer them to testing labs. Japan's foreign minister has shared concerns over China's increasing presence with the 3 Baltic countries. He says they've agreed to cooperate on a free and open Indo-Pacific. Motegi Toshimitsu met his counterpart in Lithuania, Gabrielius Landsbergis, on the last leg of his tour. They discussed the situation regarding China. They reportedly expressed serious concerns over Beijing's unilateral attempts to change the status quo by coercion in the East and South China Seas, as well as the situations in Hong Kong and the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. They reaffirmed the importance of maintaining and strengthening a free and open international order.
The issue of the East China Sea is not somebody else's problem for the Baltic countries. They expressed a deep understanding of Japan's concern.
Motegi went on to say that they agreed on advancing concrete cooperation with the EU and the Baltic countries. Those were the stories for this hour.